Hey, I'm Hugh Ballou. Thanks for joining us today. I'm the president of the board of the Lynchburg Symphony Orchestra. And I have with me on this Facebook Live our brand new maestro, David Glover. And we want to tell you about this exciting season, but today we're going to tell you about Beethoven at 250. So, Maestro Glover, talk a little
Oh,
bit about this fun concert that's coming up.
it sure is. This is going to be a great concert coming up. This is my first concert as music director, and I'm just thrilled that we're going to be doing an all Beethoven concert because his music is just so powerful and so accessible. And we have two of the best and most famous pieces that he ever wrote. The fifth piano, fifth piano concerto called The Emperor with a wonderful young pianist named Stephen Buse. And then his Fifth Symphony was probably the most famous opening of any classical piece of music.
Da 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 da. I bet you stop anybody on the street, they could tell you about Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And it's interesting. Beethoven was known for wild changes in emotion, and that's reflected in his music. He was also meticulous at rewriting, and recomposing things. And the Fifth Symphony is a standout amongst all of musical literature. It's one of the most famous symphonies of all time. Why is that?
It's a good question. I think there are two reasons that are related to each other that make it such a convincing piece of music. The first one is the journey that he takes us on. You were talking about those wild emotional swings, and this one from the first note to the last note just goes on this huge journey. And at its heart, it's a journey from darkness to light. So at the beginning, we're sitting here in C minor, and by the end, we're in C major. It's only a one note difference from those two notes, but it's how he takes us on that journey from the darkness of the minor to the brightness of the major that makes the piece so great. And he does this by unifying every bar, every movement through that motive that Hugh just sang for us. That famous four-note motive. And in the first movement of the symphony, hardly a bar goes by without hearing ba-ba-ba-bum somewhere in the orchestra. Sometimes it's in the foreground, sometimes it's in the background, but it's always there. And it's that drive and that construction that's almost like a mosaic of these little tiles of those four notes that gives it its unifying power and its energy.
This is in the middle period of his life, so he started incorporating a little more dissonance, a little different kind of tonality. He was spreading the harmonic palette, so he's moving us from the square period of a classical period. Everything was so precise, and not much interest in musical palette. He's moving us to a more interesting palette. And one of the most interesting parts of this symphony is not very long. You listen to a movement, you go, whoa, that was very interesting, it's over. But the third movement, going to the fourth movement, where you have that bright C major fanfare, that is something that's unique in all of musical literature, where that third movement, it just slams right into the joyous celebration of that fourth movement, which is so different from other pieces. Talk about that. That's a masterful piece to me.
Yeah, so a lot of composers starting at this time, but Beethoven was really at the forefront of it, was starting to play with the expectations of what had been set up in the classical period. Music was generally written according to, I don't want to say a formula, but it definitely had certain rules. And the audience at that time was conditioned to expect certain things to happen in certain orders, certain ways that the harmony sounded, certain content in each musical movement. And composers realized that by playing around with those expectations, they could really create a huge emotional impact. And in this case, the symphony usually has four movements. A first movement that's generally fast and sets up the main material, a slow second movement, a dance-like third movement, and then a fast, usually exuberant last movement. And as you mentioned, he elides that dance-like third movement. into the fourth movement and creates this extra amount of energy by having that huge fanfare start without a break. But I think this is more a sign also of how he's unifying everything together. So after we have that relentless driving first movement with the four note motive happening over and over, he takes us on this long journey as we're drifting from the darkness into the light. And he first starts by giving us a beautiful second movement that is almost like an aria. It's like balm for all the wounds that we've gotten in that violent first movement. But he doesn't let us forget the darkness. So as the cellos are singing, as the violins are singing, we still hear in the timpani and the basses, ba-ba-ba-beep, ba-ba-ba-beep. We always are hearing that going on. And then the third movement that you mentioned, he gives us a very, very like sinewy, sneaky tune. It's like he's saying after these first two movements, which way is this piece going to go? Are we going to go in the direction of that fateful driving first movement, or are we going to go the way that the beautiful aria pointed? And the third movement saying, what's going to happen next? And at that moment, between the third and fourth movements, everything gets really quiet. There's almost no motion, just the timpani very quietly giving us bum, 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 bum. And then out of nowhere, there's that wave of sound that just crashes the listener straight through into the fourth movement, gives us that bright C major, tom, tom, tee, bum, 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 bim, bum. And you know that the triumph is going to be where this piece is going to end. Whatever darkness had started is now obliterated by those trumpets and drums.
This is a new era for the Lynchburg Symphony, both in quality of the production. We've got the consummate conductor selected by unanimous consent of the search committee and the board, and the favorite of all of our musicians. But you've got the experience to take this orchestra to its next level of proficiency. It's a good orchestra. And we're on this Facebook Time live today because there's people around that don't know about Lynchburg having a symphony. You know, we're big time city. This is really good. And it's an era where the way you talk about this and the passion you put into it, it's not a boring evening where we sit and we're bored all evening. The journey of the drama, you could almost envision a movie in your mind about what's going on. And this is like, to me, it's like comfort food in the music form. It's something that everybody knows a little bit about, and it's familiar, but there's a little challenge. And every time I listen to this, David, it's like a brand new experience. So we've got this partnered with one of the most famous piano concertos and a guest pianist. This is the Emperor Concerto. What's fun about that piece?
This was the last concerto that Beethoven ever wrote. And generally, Beethoven wrote his piano music for himself to play. But as many people know, Beethoven went deaf in the middle of his life. And during the decade that he was writing both the symphony and the piano concerto that we're going to be playing, he was increasingly losing his hearing. So this was the only concerto that he ended up never performing himself, which makes it different from the others. And it's also a much grander composition than the others. The first four, especially the first three, are geared towards showing off the pianist's ability, really a vehicle for a star soloist. And in the fifth piano concerto, he's saying something much more profound musically. So not only does it have technical fireworks, but it also has musical weight. And I think that's why it's made it one of the most famous concertos out there and one of the favorites of pianists to play.
Well, if you were to invite people to come that are looking at this, who should come and why should they come to this Festival of Beethoven? It's on October the 18th, downtown Lynchburg, Virginia, at the Academy Center of the Arts, brand new, last year remodeled, historic theater that's very intimate, really good space to perform in. But who should come and why should they come?
Well, everybody should come. Everyone who loves any type of great music should come give Beethoven a listen, because music's a universal language. It can speak to everybody. And these pieces especially are so powerful. If you're a first-time concert goer, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is, because of all the reasons I was just telling you, this convincing emotional journey that he takes us on. It's a great piece for a first-time symphony attendee. The Academy of Music is such a great place to listen to concerts. I just heard one there a few weeks ago for the first time, and I was just blown away by the intimacy of the seating arrangement and the quality of the acoustics. So no matter where you sit, you're going to have a good experience, feeling like that you're close to the musicians and get a good sonic impact from the musicians on stage. So it's a great location to come see a symphony concert, and it's a great program. And in fact, all the programs we're doing this year, we're really trying to give a diversity of repertoire so that there's something for everybody in our programming, and also have music on there that is known and loved by everybody, as well as pieces that maybe you might not know, to introduce people to new music. So it's a great opportunity to hear the orchestra, learn something about music, and have a great time.
Having a great time. You know, we sort of think about the symphony being for old gray-haired people like me. I remember going to symphony when I was in elementary school and loving every minute of it. And the first time I heard the Beethoven Fifth was in Atlanta with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, Henry Sopkin, way back in the 50s. My goodness. And it's still today one of my most favorite pieces. So this is a concert you can bring some children to, because there's nothing really, it's not a long concert. We've made an attempt to make our concerts less than 90 minutes of music. And we're going to do some fun things. We're going to talk about Beethoven trivia in the lobby with the board members. And so we'll get to talk about with you when you come. What do you know about Beethoven? What's really cool about Beethoven? He was a fascinating character. His life was just amazing. And it was reflected in the wide springs of swings of music. I can't talk today. The wide emotional springs in his music. He goes swing here, swing here. And it's elegant, it's interesting, it's emotional. We have this program, and we have the December holiday concert on December 13th. We have Broadway next year. We have your wife Emily playing a wonderful classical piece. We have a night of Bach and Beethoven on the same year, Tchaikovsky. Wonderful season. So go to lynchburgsymphony.org, lynchburgsymphony.org. Right at the front, you'll see the Beethoven concert. You can click on concerts and events, get your tickets. It goes right to the Academy Center of the Arts. I would advise getting tickets now. Last year we sold out in December. This is at the new Academy. There's a lot of interest in this particular concert with the new conductor, a guest soloist. The first time the symphony's playing this kind of program in the Academy, and we are one of the residence organizations for the Academy Center of the Arts. So we're expecting a full house. Do not dally. People waited last year for the December and they didn't get tickets. So lynchburgsymphony.org, look at events and concerts, click there. There's a link for each concert. So get your tickets today. David, what's the last word you'd like to leave with people?
The last word. Beethoven's music is universal. It's powerful. It's moving. Come check us out. I guarantee you're going to have a great time.
You will have a great time. You heard it right here. lynchburgsymphony.org. lynchburgsymphony.org. We will see you there because you're going to get tickets right now.